and welcome to Choose to Lead with Capability Group. I'm Annie Kennedy, and it's my huge pleasure to introduce for a conversation today around the Choose to Lead a Women in Leadership campaign, Emma Evans, the Women's Development Football Officer from Oceania Football. Hi, welcome. It's really exciting to have a wee conversation, and I've been lucky enough to be able to work with you over the past year in a couple of different programs, and I think it would be quite helpful, first of all, for people that may be watching this to understand what is Oceania Football, OFC, what's that all about? How does what can you share?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a real privilege and honour to be here. I guess to give a bit of history into OFC, so we're one of the 6 confederations that sits below FIFA, and we oversee the Oceania region. So there's 11 Pacific Island countries that I guess are member associations below us, and we help to oversee the development of those member associations. New Zealand is one of them, which is where I'm based, and the rest is spread out across the Pacific. And my specific role as Women's Football Development Officer is to oversee the growth and development and the strategy of women's football across those countries. But I guess the support that OFC offers to all of the member associations is completely across the board. So it could be from a governance or finance perspective, strategic thinking, right down to the grassroots football, and trying to encourage and implement programs to help grow the game within those 11 countries.
And what's your background, Emma? What's led you to this role?
I started off as a player, played from the age of 4, and over the years had quite a few knee injuries, which I guess led me more down the coaching pathway. And I ended up going to university and studying sport and exercise and majored in education. From there, I thought I'd actually get into teaching, PE teaching, but I guess it led me down a path of coaching, and then through coaching, I guess I realised there were opportunities in the development space, really around growing the game at a grassroots level, and through connections, through playing, through meeting the right people, I was very lucky to have some people that led me down that path and came to me when opportunities arose. So I started working at Capital Football as a part-time coach in football and schools programs and coaching within their talent program. And then that led to a full-time role as Women's Football Development Officer there. And I spent a few years in the coaching and development space for Capital Football, which I guess was my first real experience in the development space, and learned a lot over that time, and was lucky enough to be on a lot of leadership and development programs at that point. So really a combination of the knowledge of a player, the knowledge that you get through your formal education and studying at university, but then the experience working in football has all led me to Oceania Football and where I am today.
And you're just so passionate about it. I think when I think of you, I think of someone who is passionate about football, who's passionate about making a difference. Because when I look back at your time, for example, on Capital Football and some of the programs that you started, like I think was the Women's and Girls Festival that brought thousands of young women into the game. And I can imagine the ripple effect of that on so many as well. I mean, I just kept reading in some of the projects that you've done, there's, thousands and thousands of people impacted. And is that something you're conscious of? Is there an element of, because I think of you as this passionate person, but I also think of you who has a sense of vision, and you have a quiet determination and focus, I think, that sort of comes along beside that vision. Is that fair to say? Are you quite conscious of that? Yeah.
I think I'm becoming more conscious of it, for sure. When I first started out, you pinch yourself every day that you're lucky enough to work in a sport or work in football, which is something that started out as a hobby. I loved it. It was part of my everyday life. As a player, you live and breathe it. You don't necessarily know it's possible to make it a career. And I guess I feel like I stumbled or fell into it as a career, but really it was probably deliberate actions that I took and opportunities that were presented to me that I grabbed with both hands. And that's kind of what got me into those positions and got me to where I am. But when you start out, you just want to share that passion with other people, I think, and you don't necessarily realize the impact that it will have on those individuals. All you know is you've had this incredible experience, and you hope or you want other people to share that experience. And the more time I spend in football, that passion doesn't go away. Any time you have a stressful day or something doesn't quite go your way, you come back to why you do it. And the more experienced I get, the more I realize, yes, one side of it is the football and wanting to improve football and make football better and people's experiences in football better. But then the other side of it is the people. And you know how powerful football, or any sport in fact, can be for the development of people. And every interaction they have with the game, every moment that they're in the game, could have an influence on the rest of their lives. And you definitely start to realize that. I only need to look at the people and certain moments in the game that have had an impact on my life to realize that you have a huge responsibility now to actually use football for the better, and use it to develop people, use it to develop the game, but use it to have an influence on people's lives for the rest of their lives.
And I think it's something I hadn't really considered that much before. When we became involved in the women's capacity, football capacity building program that has come out of funding from FIFA, hasn't it? With the desire to empower women across the globe, like you say, through football, the impact of people and on people. And you and I had some moments, I think, where we just kind of had an emotional, wow, this is having impact on people's lives, and the ripple effect of that, and the excitement around the upcoming Women's World Cup that's going to be held in Australia and New Zealand in 2023, and the opportunities that brings in terms of, what's the legacy going to be around that? And is that something, what are your thoughts around your, I guess, reflections on the ripple effect of your everyday leadership, the things that you are having and making a difference on?
Yeah, I think that ripple effect is crucial, and it's critical that people understand the impact that they can have, and that could be in a positive or a negative light, and it's crucial that we understand that. So I think of times, and we probably all do, where we've been in organisations or in circumstances where leadership has been wonderful and has been extremely positive, and that feeds down to the rest of the organisation. And we've also been in situations where maybe it was the opposite, and it was that negative energy and challenges or frustrations that go the whole way through the organisation. So I think first and foremost, we need to understand that whatever it is that we're projecting through our organisations, it's not just influencing those people, but it's influencing the people that they then influence as well. It's much bigger than just having an impact on one or two people. And I guess I can tell a story, and I think back to me being in high school, and my high school coach at the time, Trevor Austin, an incredible man who realised that football, I guess, was much bigger than a high school team that was there to play. We had an extremely successful team and went on to win 3 national titles with him, and we did not necessarily have the best team, but what he did was empowered the players. He created a real sense of belonging within the team. And I guess for me personally, I had a lot of injuries at that time, and it was really hard to know where I fit anymore, and he made sure that I was always involved. And he was probably one of the first people, I guess, that really showed me what I was capable of as a leader, not just within football, the school environment, within the team from outside a playing perspective. And I guess now in everything that I do, I realise that his impact he had on me as a player, or as a person, more importantly, has shaped everything that I now do. And so for me now, every interaction I have, whether it's with one person or a group of 1,000 young girls that are playing the game, as you mentioned before, or a group of women on the Women in Leadership program, it's about understanding that my actions don't only impact them, but that influence could have a ripple down effect to the thousands of people that they then interact with in their life, So you, I guess, carry a big responsibility, but then you would need to understand that responsibility doesn't need to be heavy. If you act from a place of authenticity and you're genuine and you love what you do and you're passionate about what you do, that should always be a positive experience for those people. And and the World Cup will be no different, and the women and men that are volunteering or that are in the CEO roles at the World Cup, regardless of what level it is that they're working at, their impact and their legacy that they have as individual people will be massive on the people that play or govern the game in the future, but also on the wider community as well. So I think as individuals, we have the ability to have this ripple effect, but also as an organisation, whether that's FIFA, whether it's OFC, the local organising committee, their ripple effect will be massive, and we need to ensure that it's a positive ripple effect and understand the importance of that.
It's hard not to be overwhelmed by that. When we've discussed some of the kind of, the context and some of the, in your region and the Confederation and some of the challenges for young girls and women and just how empowering and the ripple effect in some of those areas, it's hard not to get pulled into being overwhelmed by, like you say, that sense of responsibility that sits around that. But oh my gosh, when you see those moments, like that moment, was it Trevor, did you say? When you see those moments where someone has been given permission to own the their own capability to create ripple effects around them is just incredible, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And I think it's understanding your values and your strengths and why you do what you do. And I think, Trevor was a good example of someone who knew his strengths, but also knew his areas of weakness or areas where he wasn't as strong and brought in people around him to help with that. And I think that's really important as well. You have to know yourself and know what you stand by if you really want to have a positive impact on other people.
Yeah, and we were just saying before, sometimes it's hard to know yourself as well, that sometimes our strengths are so natural and easy to us that we don't see them for what they are. What's helped you, do you think, along the way, apart from people like Trevor? How have you become more aware of what you bring, what your strengths are? What's enabled you as a leader more, apart from the likes of a Trevor?
I think for me, you need to be authentic and you need to be real to yourself, and it's having that confidence to be who you are. And I think back to my teenage self, and there are people who tried to help me with that, and people you look up to and certain behaviours or characteristics that you appreciate and that you hope you have. But I think it's probably really only been in my 20s where I've really actually started to have the self-awareness to actually to own or to acknowledge what my strengths are. And I don't know if there was necessarily a light bulb moment that enabled that. I think it's been something that's happened over time, and the confidence doesn't come from your friends or your family telling you what your strengths are or helping you to see that. That's wonderful, and I've had extremely supportive parents and friends in my life always. You have to acknowledge it and realize it for yourself, and until you do that, I don't think that confidence is necessarily genuine, or you don't own it yet, and it's trial and error, it's making mistakes, it's overcoming obstacles along the way, helping you to realize your resilience or your strength. It's how you show up every day and what type of environment you want to create. And I've been lucky enough, I guess, that I've been in spaces and had people around me that I've looked up to, and I've seen how they've done it, and I've tried to replicate that in my own life. And that's not just in the work life, that's in my personal life as well. And for me, the two, it makes it easier to be authentic and be the same person you are in your everyday life as it is when you go to work, and I think as long as you're true to who you are and you're not trying to fit into another person's definition of that confidence will come. But yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't know at what point I guess that self-awareness developed. It's a combination of things, and it does come to the point where you have to genuinely believe that. And then I guess I've been told over the years, and it's something I tell other people, it is faking it till you make it a lot of the time. It's trying to be confident in male dominated environments, even more so. But one day that confidence becomes real and you realize you're not faking it anymore.
And there's still challenges in terms of the male-dominated environment in football, and it's come a long way. I was reading on the Women's World Cup Australia-New Zealand website the story about was it 50 years ago, around 1975, the first national women's team in New Zealand, and they won, right? They won a Six-Nation tournament, but to fundraise, they were going around pubs and things and charging 20 cents for a kiss. But I couldn't believe it. It's just hilarious. But things have changed, hopefully, since those days. But they were in that article was talking about when they came back, there was interest from the media. There was, people waiting at the airport to celebrate with them. But the headlines were gorgeous girls win, and all of that. It was still yet a long way to go. And where do you think, where is it at the moment around that sort of challenge for women in football?
Oh yeah, look, I think a lot of people have seen those stories, and there's hundreds more like it. And you only need to speak to some of those pioneering footballers to understand what their challenges were and how hard life was, and how hard they had to fight to be relevant or be supported or to be acknowledged as the athletes that they were representing their country. And in some ways, the game has come such a long way. And in other ways, there are still challenges. When teams perform and teams do well, people notice and people want to support it and people want to get behind them. But we need consistency, and we need people to support our professional players or our national team players or our club level players consistently. Whether they're performing well on the world stage, whether they're performing well at club level, there's always going to be peaks and troughs. It's always going to be up and down. But the more support that we have behind the game that's sustainable and that's long term, the results will come eventually. But right now there's still challenges with funding. There's still challenges trying to get sponsorship deals at every level of the game, and especially for women's football. So yes, it's come a long way. I don't think there'll be any kissing booths set up before the next World Cup. I'd like to think not. But there are still times where we have people on the street fundraising to perform at the highest level. So there's still a lot of work to be done in that space. I hope the World Cup brings more attention, it brings more eyes, and especially people in New Zealand. I hope it opens their eyes actually to the global game and just how big women's football is globally, and how much more we need to do here as a nation to support female athletes.
It's huge, isn't it? Coming to our shores is just a massive opportunity. And I think about, as I listen to you describe the context that you operate in a very complex context, whether it's the political or geographical kind of environment. What have you learned around navigating that yourself as a leader?
Yeah, I think that is one of the most challenging things for any woman in football, and let alone, I guess, a woman in a situation where you're dealing with 11 different countries who all have entirely different cultures, religious views, political views. You need to have a good understanding, and you need to listen to what's important to the people from those countries. You need to be respectful of that and of their beliefs. And you also need to understand that there's certain areas that, yes, we do want to have this social change. We do want to see this cultural change. But at the same time, we need to celebrate what their cultures are, and we need to celebrate all the really positive things that do occur on a day-to-day basis within these countries. And it's being mindful that as a white woman in football in New Zealand, what's important to me and what my vision is might not necessarily be the same for Papua New Guinea and their country. And it's really understanding and listening to someone like Margaret, who's the Women's Development Officer in Papua New Guinea, an incredible woman who faces more challenges than anyone I know, yet every day she shows up, she turns up to work, she's positive, she's trying to change the game, she's trying to change lives. And you only need to look at someone like that to be inspired and to realise that any challenges you may face are worth it when there's someone like that who's facing more, yet is still doing what she does on a day-to-day basis. So
I think she's incredible.
Yeah. And it's bringing those people in, it's supporting them, it's listening to them, I've done quite a lot of work, or I'm starting to a lot of work on, complexity within organisations and complexity theory, and it is trying to understand different ways of navigating certain issues. It's understanding what the cause of them is, and how easy or difficult they're going to be to change, and what types of methods you can use to do that. So there's such a diverse nature within that. You're talking geographical spread, political views, religious views, the hierarchy within each of those countries. Are they still a kingdom? Is there certain levels that you need to respect and be mindful of in order to bring about change? So it's a very, I think football's a complex world anyway, and then when you add in the different countries, it takes it to a whole nother level.
And you've created a team of people working alongside you now. When I look across the Oceania region, people like the Margarets, and that you have enabled through the support that you're giving, that have now got permission to step up and make the impact that you were describing. And I think that's something that I see as a witness, and I found incredibly moving in my experience working alongside that particular project. I guess I'm kind of curious. We've got the Choose to Lead campaign as our kind of theme for the series of conversations. What does Choose to Lead mean for you, Emma?
Choosing to lead for me means choosing to show up. And it's choosing to use the space that you have, or the role that you have, to enable other people to see their potential, or to inspire other people to see their potential. And I think so often we're in these roles, but we don't necessarily understand the impact it can have. And if you can empower a bigger group of people around you, the impact you'll have will be so much bigger. So to me, choosing to lead it's showing up, it's empowering other people to realise their own potential, and then it's creating, I guess, a safe space where they can really thrive and develop as individuals within that as well.
So it's having the courage to show up, right? In some of the kind of context that you were describing, there's an element of courage at times, and then enabling others and creating the safety for others. Yeah, nice.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think it's probably time for me to wrap up, and I appreciate so much you making the time. I love the conversations that we have, and I've really enjoyed working alongside you, and I'm genuine when I say, that I've been moved watching the impact that your work has had across the Oceania region, and even leading up to that as well. So many lives have been positively impacted. Thank you for that, and thank you for your time, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And it's been great talking to Emma Evans from Oceania Football Confederation, and thanks, mate wa. Bye. Mate wa.